I'm going to tell you about the worst mistake my family ever made. It wasn't drugs, wasn't gambling, wasn't even getting into debt. No, our mistake was simpler than that. We bought a house. And I know what you're thinking. Everyone buys houses, right? What's the big deal? Well, let me tell you what happens when you get a deal that's too good to be true. Because sometimes, you're not the only one living there. It was 2 years. 2 long years of house hunting before my parents finally found it. I was 17 at the time, and honestly, I'd stopped caring about where we'd end up. But then we pulled up to this place, and I have to admit, I was impressed. The house stood at the end of a quiet lane in a neighborhood that our beat-up Honda had no business being in. It was tall, old, elegant in that vintage way that makes you think of old money and family estates. Surrounded by evergreen woods, it looked like the last house before civilization just stopped. "That's our new house," my mom said, and I could hear the pride in her voice. I leaned forward between the front seats. "How?" I asked. Because even at 17, I knew we couldn't afford a place like this. My dad chuckled. "It was a steal, Ari. We got so lucky." "Patience pays off," my mom added, gesturing at the mansion. "Wait long enough, search hard enough, and you might just strike gold." "Smelly gold," my dad corrected with a laugh. I didn't ask any more questions. I wasn't about to complain. My younger sister Lena was already squealing about having her own room. My little brother Kai, who was only 4, just stared wide-eyed at the building. As we drove closer, I noticed something though. The neighbors. They were watching us. Standing on porches, peeking through windows, just staring. It made the back of my neck prickle, but I shook it off. New neighborhood, new faces. Of course they'd be curious. I had no idea they were trying to warn us. The first few days were fine. Better than fine, actually. The house was massive inside, twice the size of our old place. Sure, it had that smell my dad mentioned. This sour, musty reek that seemed to cling to everything. But my parents said that's why we got such a discount. A little smell in exchange for our dream home? Fair trade. Our dogs, Chiefy and Miss Bear, loved it. They ran up and down the halls barking, tracking dirt everywhere, totally unbothered by the stink. My parents complained about the mess, but I just figured the dogs needed time to adjust. Then things started getting weird. It started with the dogs at night. Every night, they'd growl at the walls when the house creaked. Old houses make noise, right? The wind pushes against them, wood settles. Nothing unusual. But the dogs wouldn't calm down. Week after week, they just kept growling. One night, Miss Bear was sleeping at the foot of my bed when she started growling at the wall. My wall. The one I shared with Kai's room. There was no wind that night. No creaking. But she was growling, then barking, and then she yelped. Not a normal bark. A yelp of pure fear. Her tail went between her legs and she bolted out of my room, straight toward Kai's door. I followed her and found my little brother sitting up in bed, staring at our shared wall. "It's okay," he said, looking at the dog. "It was just my friend." Kai had started talking to himself. Or so we thought. He'd mumble in his room, have little conversations around the house. My mom finally asked him about it. "Kai, sweetie, are you talking to yourself?" He looked confused. "No, Mommy. I'm talking to my friend." I remember thinking it was creepy, but my parents decided it was fine. Kids have imaginary friends, right? Totally normal for a 4-year-old. Except it wasn't normal. I started investigating our shared wall. I pushed furniture aside and found something behind my dresser. A stain. Old and brown, but it looked like it had once been red. It ran down the wall in little rivers, like something had splattered there and dripped down. The same sour smell from the house was stronger there, but I told myself it was nothing. Just an old stain in an old house. My sister Lena started acting strange too. She got quiet, wouldn't leave the house with my mom anymore. When I asked her what was wrong, she said something that made my blood run cold. "This house is scary," she whispered. "It feels like we aren't the only ones living here." I tried to comfort her, told her we just weren't used to such a big old place. But I didn't believe it myself. The creaking, the smell, the dogs growling, Kai's friend, those stains. Something was wrong. Then came the night that changed everything. I woke up to one of the dogs sniffing my feet, an annoying habit they'd developed. I pushed it away, muttered for it to go, and started drifting back to sleep. That's when Lena screamed. Not a little scream. A full, terror-filled shriek that shot my heart into my throat. I ran to her room and found her sitting up in bed, back against the wall, eyes wide with fear. "Lena," I cried. "Are you okay?" She was staring past me at the corner of her room. She whimpered something I couldn't understand. "Someone behind you," she finally whispered. I could hear my parents coming down the hall. Slowly I turned around. In the darkness of that corner I saw something. A figure. I'm still not sure if it was real or if I imagined it, but I think it was a woman. Or a girl. Naked, blood-stained, faceless except for two piercing eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. I screamed. Lena screamed. My dad burst in and flipped on the light. The figure was gone. My dad checked the corner, it was empty. But I noticed something. More stains on the wall, low near the floor. Old brown stains that looked like they'd once been red. My parents exchanged a look that terrified me more than the apparition had. There was knowledge in that look. Something they weren't telling us. Things got worse. Kai started crying in his room saying his friend came back, but now the friend was scary and bad. He pointed at our shared wall when I asked where he'd seen this man. That night, Kai slept in my room. We locked the door so the dogs wouldn't get in and lick our feet while we slept. A few hours into the night, something started sniffing my foot, then licking it. I moaned for the dog to stop and whatever it was, listened. It panted for a moment and walked away. Half asleep, I suddenly remembered, I'd closed the door. I sat up and looked. The door was still closed. There was no dog in my room. But my foot was damp. The next day, Kai approached my parents in the kitchen with a question that shattered our false sense of security. Can we go back to our old house? He asked. I don't want to talk to him anymore. The horror on my mother's face. I'll never forget it. My dad sighed, cursed under his breath, and sent Kai to watch TV. Then they told me the truth. The smell isn't the only reason we could afford this house, my mom said, pain in her voice. My dad looked me in the eyes. The family who lived here before, they died. They were killed right here in this house. I felt tears running down my face. All those stains. The blood stains. And you bought it anyway? I cried. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, my mom said weakly. My dad refused to believe the house was haunted. He said it was just creepy and creaky, nothing more. We were going to stay. But the truth was so much worse than a haunting. A few weeks passed without incident. I started to believe maybe my dad was right. Maybe we were just spooked. Maybe the girl in the corner had been my imagination. Then one day I was walking the dogs when I caught a neighbor staring at me from his mailbox. I was fed up with all the staring, so I confronted him. What's your deal? I demanded. You people are always staring at us. He fidgeted with his mail, looking uncomfortable. Finally, he gathered his courage and said, We can't help but wonder what sort of folks would want to buy a house like that. The sort who aren't superstitious, I shot back. The father killed his family and himself. Horrible, yes. But not a reason to pass up a great deal. The man's eyes widened. He looked at me, then at the house, then back at me. The father? He whispered. You don't know. Don't know what? My dogs started whining, pushing against my legs. The man explained, there was confusion when it happened. The official report said the whole family died, but that was negligence. Cowardice. The truth is, the wife and 2 children were butchered. The father was never found. My stomach dropped. He got away, the man continued. No one knows where he went. We all upgraded our security after. Reinforced windows, doors, alarms, cameras. And then your family moves in. He shook his head. Sometimes our cameras catch footage of what looks like a ragged man prowling around in the dark. You told the police? Of course. But nothing came of it. I looked back at the house. My parents were out getting groceries. Kai and Lena were home alone. I ran. I burst through the door, calling for my siblings. They came running, confused and scared. Stay with me, I told them. Stay close. I took them to Kai's room and asked him to show me where he'd seen the scary man. But he didn't point at the wall. He pointed at the vent. I should have called the police right then. I should have grabbed my siblings and run to the neighbors. But I needed to know. I grabbed the vent and pushed. Then pulled. It didn't budge at first, but I pushed harder. Suddenly the wall groaned. The vent gave way and so did a section of the wall. A square opening about 3 feet wide and tall with the vent at its base. It wasn't a solid wall. It was a crawl space. Cobwebs and dust puffed out. That sour reek wafted over me, stronger than ever. Stay here, I told my siblings, and I crawled inside. I squeezed through until I was behind the vent that led into my own room. I pushed, and just like before, another section gave way. I was looking at the foot of my bed now. Looking at where my feet would be when I slept. That's when I heard it. A sigh. Humming. Growing louder from the far end of the crawl space. I froze, listening. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it would burst. Slowly, I turned my head toward the darkness at the end of the space. I squinted, trying to make out shapes in the shadows. Then I saw it. half a face peeking around the corner. One bloodshot eye. Pale, withered skin. A twisted grin of rotten teeth. A scraggly, bony hand clutching the wall. The thing that might have been a man started to laugh. I screamed, a scream that hurt my throat for days. I threw myself back into Kai's room, grabbed my siblings' hands and ran. We ran downstairs, out of the house, that horrible laughing chasing us the whole way. I swear I heard footsteps scurrying behind us. We didn't stop until we reached the neighbor's house. Within 20 minutes, our street was filled with police cars, lights flashing everywhere. We didn't know, my dad kept saying. The realtor told us they all died. Well, they didn't, I snapped back. I saw him. When the police searched the house, they found the passages. The crawl spaces between the walls led to a cave-like den dug into the earth below the house. There were empty cans of soup and beans. Rotting food. Dirt everywhere. Finally I understood. The muddy floors. The missing groceries. The sour smell. The father who had killed his family hadn't died. He'd been living in the walls and beneath the house the entire time. Living off us. Watching us. Tormenting us. He'd been licking my feet at night. But when the police searched, he was gone. Whoever you saw is gone, the officer told us. The house is empty now. But he'd been there. Living with us. Watching us sleep. We moved immediately. Not just to a new house but to a new city. We have reinforced windows and doors now. We watch everyone who passes by our house the same way those neighbors used to watch us. But it's not enough. Because he was never found. He's still out there. Kai still talks about his imaginary friend coming back. My mom obsessively checks our food supply, panicking when anything goes missing. My dad loses it whenever he sees dirt on the floor. And me? I wake up at least 3 times a week with the awful sensation that something has been licking my feet. We try to live normal lives. But we're not really living. We're waiting. Waiting for the hidden resident to find us again. Because some deals that seem too good to be true? They are. And the price you pay might be something you can never escape. If you're house hunting, do your research. Know the history. Ask questions. And if the neighbors are staring at you with fear in their eyes, listen to them. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more true horror stories. And sleep well tonight, if you can.